Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to Sue Foley. She's a woman who knows what she likes and she sticks with it. Undeniably the queen of Canadian blues, the singer-guitarist has been on the road for more than 30 years. She's released a dozen albums of her own. She's made a bunch more in collaboration with other artists. She's won a Juno. She's won umpteen Maple Blues Awards. She's been nominated for a slate of other prizes. She shared the stage with everyone from Jimmy Vaughan and Billy Gibbons to Eric Clapton. And throughout all of that, she's been using the same guitar, the same amp, and playing the same style of music that she fell in love with decades ago as a teenager. First and foremost on that list, of course, is her guitar, her paisley Telecaster known as Pinkie. It inspired the title of her latest album, Pinkie's Blues, which features some of her favorite Texas blues songs, including Obscurities by unsung heroes like Lavelle White, Frankie Lee Sims, and Lillie Mae Donley. Just for good measure, Foley also tosses a few of her own numbers into the mix. From her home in Austin, she recently spoke to me about her relationship with Pinkie, her record collection, her love of Texas blues, and much more. Here's how it went. Thanks for doing this, first of all.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Where are you today?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So do you get to Canada much anymore, or do you divide your time? How does that work?
Back and forth. I had been dividing my time almost equally before COVID, and now I haven't really been back for a bit. So
Yeah, well, I mean, there's worse places to be than Austin.
yeah, I'm due to be back in Canada in the spring.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
And you've been in Austin for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, I've been coming back for about 5 years, and I've moved back almost permanently for the last 3 years, almost,
Great, yeah.
give or take. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a South by Southwester for years. It's great, a great city for music, obviously.
Yeah, it is, and it still is. So, yeah.
Although I kind of miss you were there like in the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, right? I kind of miss those days before the whole .com thing took over, like when west of Congress you still had the Liberty Lunch and all, before all that development kind of kicked in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. We could talk about that for days, but yeah, it's changed a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. Where
exactly.
are you? Are you in Winnipeg?
I am, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean you generally pass through here once on every Canadian tour, right?
I love Winnipeg. I got a lot of friends there. We've been going there since the very beginning.
Sure,
And
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, well, Colin used to live here and Big Dave is still here. I mean, all those guys.
yeah, I'm old friends with Big Dave, John Scholes, owner of The Times
Exactly.
Changed.
Time change.
And half my first band they were Mennonites from, well, Morden,
Right.
Manitoba. So, you know,
A very fun bunch of guys, undoubtedly.
oh, they were actually. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, obviously. Well,
Yeah.
congrats on this album. It sounds great.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
After all this time and all, putting out so many albums, does it still have the same kind of thrill and excitement to put out new music, or is it a little more routine now?
No, I think now more than ever, actually, it's exciting because, first of all, we had nothing else to do last year, so making an album was a big deal. Uh, but yeah, I think it's always pretty exciting. Even talk to someone like Jimmy Vaughan, who I know quite well, and he's just putting out, a big album release, and he's excited as a little kid, and you're like, this is great. This is what I hope it's always going to be like. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
well, good.
excited.
Yeah, good, good. I mean, I love this one. It's got a real live, immediate feel, which is obviously not an accident. I mean, that's part and parcel with how you recorded it, right?
Yeah, we wanted to record it like that anyway. We would have, regardless of the circumstances. But the circumstances did sort of dictate that we couldn't bring in a lot of people to the studio. We had a very small group, and but also that intimacy, but also that liveness. We already had decided we wanted to kind of capture that, just like all the great old records that we love were all recorded that way. So
Yeah.
And, like Mike Flanagan, the producer, said, there's not everybody can do this. This is what we really do. I mean, not everybody can go into the studio and cut everything live. I mean, vocals, guitar solos, tracks, bass and drums in one room, and have keeper tracks. So it is something that we actually do, and why not, right? So
Oh, exactly. And I mean,
yeah,
it seems like it should be the way blues music is made, doesn't it?
I think so. Blues and jazz, especially, like it's that kind of music where you just want that vibe, you want the spontaneity, you want a feel, you want something to happen in the moment, and tracking music doesn't necessarily always lend itself to that vibe.
Right.
Yeah,
So
the
talking
spirit.
about recording the old way, you're recording a lot of older songs here, and a lot of the artists you're covering aren't necessarily household names, even for blues fans, I would think. So how
Mhm.
did you sort of pick and choose and put together the lists of the artists that you are covering on this one?
Well, basically, I kind of got into during the lockdown, and I hate to use that word last year, but um, we just had this sort of time to reflect. And we had started, Mike Flanagan and I started a little live stream very early. This was April 2020. We had a few weeks, we did a live stream called Texas Blues Party. And that sort of became the impetus of gathering this material. So what happened is we thought, okay, we got this time. Let's try this live streaming thing. And but we wanted to make it fun, and we made it sort of like a little variety show where we talked about Texas artists and who was influencing us. And we actually had to do this week after week, so we actually had to learn tunes from it was like, okay, next week we're going to do Freddie King. I'm like, okay, I better brush up on my Freddie King stuff. And then we did we did stuff by Frankie Lee Sims, and so it kind of got us in that mode of re-listening to all the stuff that early in our early days in Austin. We were schooled by Clifford Antone and the Antone's family to like listen to this. Clifford was really specific about, he turned us on to Frankie Lee Sims, and he introduced us to all kinds of people that weren't household names, and Jimmy Donley from, down in Louisiana, and people like that. And so we just spent, the time. We were doing that show and did it for about 4 weeks. And then Mike decided, just off the spur of the moment, he goes, I'm going to go into the studio and record an album. Why don't you play guitar and we'll get Chris Layton on drums? So we went in and did his album in a couple days, and we did it all live. And it's a great album called West Texas Blues. And it's sort of like the same kind of vibe. And then it was time for me to do mine. And I thought, well, I'm just going to gather material, and that's it. We just kind
Do
of
you have a
revisited.
do you have a huge record collection, or is this all online gathering?
I have, the funny thing is I pulled from my original record collection, and it's this wide. I could actually show you. But it's the same collection I've had since I was 16. And some of the tunes are from those albums, like She Likes to Boogie Real Low by Frankie Lee Sims was on the Blues and D Natural album, as was Southern Man. It's actually called Southern Women.
Right.
And the Robert Nighthawk song was on another album. So these things I've had since I was like 16.
Oh, okay. So it's been a long time waiting to do something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that song Southern Man, which we're going to be dropping in a little while, is such a cool song. The original is such a badass track. And that album Blues and D Natural, it's a compilation album. Can I just go grab it? I'm going to show
Sure.
you. Hold on. So, it's funny. I've got this album. Had it since I was 16. And it's this album. It's a pretty famous, and I've got it on vinyl, of course. Pretty famous compilation album that came out, I think, in the 80s. And people in the know, in the blues world, knew about this album. And it has like Earl Hooker on it and Elmore James. And it's got just a few jams that you never heard anywhere else. One of them was Boot Hill, and Stevie Ray Vaughan recorded Boot Hill.
Right.
Because we talked to Chris Layton about that in this album, and I've had this album. And the Southern Woman It's by a guy named Tommy Brown, and nobody had ever heard of him, but it's a killer track. I mean, it is a killer, one of the best tracks you'll ever hear. It's got some Earl Hooker, blue guitar, and then it's got She Likes to Boogie Real Low, the Frankie Lee Sims ones that we covered. So
the house burns down. It's the Telecaster first, and then that album section.
I don't know.
Is that the order?
I don't know, but that album just came back to me, and I was like, oh wow, I started to listen to it again, and then I'm like, these songs are so great, let's just do these.
Yeah. So what is it about the Texas blues specifically that kind of seems to speak to you maybe a little more than Chicago or some of the other varieties?
Well, I mean, I love Chicago blues. I love a lot of kinds of blues, but what happened is, as I was getting into blues music, that's when Stevie Ray hit. And Texas blues kind of came onto the scene, and it wasn't even specifically Texas blues. It was Austin,
Right.
it was what's happening in Austin. And so I was, in my mid-teens, I guess. And I was like, what is happening in Austin? I saw the T-Birds live. I saw Stevie Ray, and then I saw some Antone's Road shows with like Angela Straley and all these, and then all the Chicago guys that went down to Antone's too and played with everybody. There was this whole conglomeration of musicians, a community. And I was just like, I have to go to Austin. I have to go to Austin. It was almost like, like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz or something. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I've got to go there. I got to go there. And I swear. And then all of a sudden I ended up there, and I was, in the middle of it. And there was just something about what was happening at that time. And, sorry, I got a warning on my computer. There was just something happening in that time frame that was really special. I love Chicago blues. I mean, I love Chess Records and obviously Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and all those guys, Jimmy Reed, and I love Mississippi blues too. I mean, but it was just a moment of time, and I ended up getting to take part at the tail end of that moment, which I feel really super gracious for.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then it's definitely, it works for you. I mean, do you hear a difference in the styles? Because to me, it's Texas blues is hard to define. It's almost like pornography. What they say, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. And it's the same kind of thing with Texas blues, where I go, well, I can't really explain how it's different, but you can tell.
Yeah, it's got a flavor of its own. And, this song that we just dropped, Dallas Man, was about my guitar heroes from the Dallas area. And that song was written because I was working on some Frankie Lee Sims stuff, and I couldn't get it. And then I also prior to that had been working on some Blind Lemon Jefferson stuff. And then I realized I couldn't quite get that either. I was close, but it was kind of like, so there's a distinctiveness of the style here, a very distinct way of playing guitar. Specifically, as a guitar player, I'm really into it. A lot of it's not about flash and speed or pyrotechnics, although a guy like Stevie Ray obviously was pretty pyrotechnical, but a lot of it's about tone, spacing. It's about sound and tone and especially richness of tone and phrasing. And there's just some really amazing things if you can actually get under your belt as a musician, as a guitar player especially, that it really makes for a good sound. And I just thought the sound of what they were doing, like somebody like Jimmy Vaughan, there's a sound to it. Even Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, I mean, even though that's rock blues, he just kind of has this thing. He's not trying to like overplay or anything. He's just cool, and there's also the cool factor. Yeah. No, it's just cool. It just sounds good, and it's cool, I guess.
Last time I saw ZZ Top, I watched Big Gibbons specifically, and I swear to God, he played the same guitar for the entire set and never tuned. And I was just, how does he do that? It was incredible. I don't know if that's his tone or his touch or what. It was just, I've never seen that before.
Yeah. And you know what? Billy is really, I've played beside Billy and watched him. He doesn't use any effects. This
Yeah, it's just
guitar
amp.
into amp, no reverb, nothing. And the same with Jimmy, minimal effects, just guitar into amp, and away you go. And as a guitar player, you know that that's not easy to do. Like, that is not easy to do. And Billy's phrasing is, their phrasing is just so perfect, you know.
Well,
So
you're no slouch either. So how does you know, the other thing that struck me about Texas blues is I see a lot of Telecaster players. Is that somehow a tone that matches or seems to work more?
there's yeah, I mean, Albert Collins, early Clarence Gate Mills Brown had a telly, or a version of a telly. A lot, I see a lot of strats
Mhm.
still,
Yeah, well,
but the
Stevie Ray, of
telly,
course. Yeah.
yeah, and Jimmy plays strat, and Anson Funderburg plays strat. The strat was really big when I was starting out, so I chose the telly because I didn't want to sound like everybody else. But I thought about Albert Collins specifically,
Yeah.
the master of the Telecaster, and then I was like, yeah, man. I
Yeah.
don't really know why, because the telly's usually a country guitar, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But
But you've had yours now for quite a long time, right? The Pinkie that the album is titled for.
yes,
So
yes.
tell me about that. Where did you find it? Because it's obviously, you know, like your right arm at this point, I presume, right?
It is, and I should have her here instead of this
I know. I was
white
amazed you
telly.
even have
I
another
know.
one.
I should have had this. I've got a few, but yeah, I've had her for over 30 years. Got her in Vancouver at Long and McQuaid. And yeah, it's just never broke and kept going. And I didn't really think much about it until even recently, you know, when Mike Flanagan, our album producer, brought up the idea of just making a guitar album. He said, well, let's make an album for Pinkie. You know, you've had this guitar for 30 some years, and same guitar, same amp, and it's kind of your sound and your, you know,
Mhm. You've
your
had
thing.
the exact same amp, not just the same kind of amp. Wow.
I've got the same amp.
My God,
I
woman.
am not a gearhead.
Oh,
Most
clearly.
guitar players are gearheads. They love to collect. I don't collect. I
I'm
can,
just amazed that they haven't been stolen or lost somewhere along the road, you know?
I know. And you know, I stopped the last, you know, in 2019 we were touring a lot. I actually got two other Pinkies,
Right.
and I tour with them now. So
Yeah, because
she
I've
doesn't
seen
go on the
pictures of you
road.
with one that looks, you know, the one that's got all the wear and tear, and another one that looks brand new. So I presumed you had kind of a stand-in.
Yeah, I've got three of them now.
Do they all play the same, or is the one just the one?
Well, the one is the one
Yeah.
for real. I mean, that's the one you hear on the album. It's all that guitar. There's nothing
Mhm.
else, and it's all my guitar and amp, and the original amp too in the studio.
Hmm.
But the two new Pinkies, one was given to me by Jimmy Vaughan, and one was given to me by Billy Gibbons. So they're both kind of still special, and I set them up a little differently, so they sound a little different. I'm still actually getting used to them, but
Well, sure. After 30 years with one guitar.
it's really hard. Yeah. It's like having a new boyfriend or something. It's, yeah.
So, you know, every time I talk to Buddy Guy, he always, and I'm sure you've heard this and read this too, that he always expresses concerns about when guys like him are gone, that the blues are gonna you know, wither away eventually. Um, I don't think that's true, given that, you know, there are so many artists like you continuing to keep this going. But do you feel any sort of, I don't know, greater sense of commitment or obligation, or carrying of a torch, as opposed to just being a musician making music you love?
Absolutely. I feel a real, um, and you know, I'm from Canada. I'm not from Mississippi. I'm not African American. You know, the blues is not my music. That being said, it's everybody's music. We've embraced it. You know, the world has embraced it. Um, and I've learned how to play it, I think, pretty well. I've studied really well, and I've studied the right stuff, which is also very important.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel it's like an honor, but it also is, it's like you're carrying something that's way bigger than you.
Hmm.
You know, you're carrying the message of Howlin' Wolf, for God's sakes. I mean, it does not get any heavier than that. or Muddy Waters, or all these giants. I just consider them like they're like gods now, or giants, and we walk in their footsteps, but we carry their message and we carry it forward. And it's a great commitment, and it gives it kind of a better purpose than just, hey, I'm just out there trying to sell my songs, or
Right.
I mean, I'm out there every night talking about Clarence Gatemouth Brown and Albert Collins and all these guys, and people might not know these names, and they might go, who is Memphis Minnie or somebody, and that's
Hmm.
kind of part of the I think part of the pure joy and privilege of doing this, but it's always been like that. I've always felt like that.
Yeah, well, it's also kind of the same way you probably learned about a lot of these artists is you listen to one and then you find, oh, who wrote that song? And then you're listening to Willie Dixon, and then you're listening to somebody else, and then somebody else, right?
It's true, and it's pure treasure chest stuff. Like, you're just like, wow. Like, when I was a teenager and I discovered Memphis Minnie, I was just like, wow. Like, there was a woman that played guitar, man, like, and wrote songs and like did this whole thing. And I was like, I was just floored.
Yeah, well, and then you find Rosetta Tharpe and your head just explodes,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then you're like, but everyone is like a treasure. It's like,
Yeah,
hidden treasure, because it is hidden, right? It's not like something you're going to discover on the radio or,
yeah. So,
or
so
mainstream media.
no, no. So
Right.
are you booking shows already? Are you heading out on the road? How is this going to work now with everything?
We don't know. We're just hoping, we're
Yeah.
knocking on wood, and just, things are booked. We're due to be touring come October. I'm heading to Switzerland in September,
Hmm.
Canada in the spring, and that's all I know. It's all systems a go until they tell us we have to stop.
Right. And so you're just going to kind of go with the flow, and or are you sort of going, I want to play places where people are vaccinated or not vaccinated, or do you have a?
I don't really have a preference. I've had COVID, and I feel like I've got natural immunity. I don't want to get into a heated political discussion or anything, or upset anybody, but I got pretty strong views about that. I'm not really worried about it. I certainly understand everybody's fear and anxiety, but it is a very touchy subject right now. But
Yeah, exactly. How,
for
how was it
me,
for you when you had it?
it wasn't bad. Like, I didn't even know I had it. I was a little run down, and we got it in March
Hmm.
2020, and I've since been tested for antibodies and still have antibodies, 15 months later. So, um, but yeah, I didn't know I had it until I hadn't lost my sense of smell and taste,
Well, that's good.
and then that was like because they weren't even testing back then. You'd have to be really sick to test, and you'd be in the hospital basically. So, um, but I'm in great health, and I've been around and out and about, and
Well, yeah, and I mean in
um,
Texas it's pretty much open, right?
pretty much. And it is at people's discretion. So if they don't feel comfortable, they don't have to come out. And there's lots of opportunities for vaccinations if people need them and want them. And
Yeah.
so
So
I'm just pretty level about it, I think.
what else can you do?
Yeah.
Go with the flow and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Um, going back to this album, were there other tunes that you recorded? Was there stuff that you didn't get to, or was this kind of everything that you had planned to do?
This was most of it. I think there was a few things that ended up on the floor. Like, because everything was live, a few things just bombed. We just didn't quite gel, but I wasn't overly concerned with writing like a whole album. We were just picking songs. That's why there's a lot of covers, but we tried to pick the covers of things that maybe people hadn't heard of, like Angela Straley songs, which
Right.
she's just so amazing. And she has so many great songs that she's written, and I just thought, wow, let's just try this. So we just tried a lot of stuff, but most of it made it.
Do you write a lot when you're um, not gearing up for an album, or do you just kind of write when you need new material?
Both.
Hmm.
If I think I'm preparing for something, I need to step it up and write. Like, I'm writing a book right now, so
Oh,
that's,
Tell me some more
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I've been writing a book for over 20 years on women guitar players. So I started interviewing women players in 2001. And in that time, I did in about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, I've did about over 100 interviews. I collected data, I was doing a lot of research. And in 2013, I actually went back to university, or went to university. I'd never been to university, but I went and got my master's and continued my research. Now I'm getting my PhD and I'm writing a book. So that's something else.
Wow.
So,
What's your PhD in?
in music,
Oh, okay.
in musicology. I guess it's musicology is the path, but it's basically music.
So you're going to be Dr. Foley?
Eventually.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to call me that.
I think we all should.
Oh no.
Do you have a kind of end date or a deadline for the
I'm
book?
hoping that the book is getting close. That's been a real bear to wrestle with because I was raising a kid, I was touring, making albums, and trying to do this book, and I did a lot of interviews, and then I didn't know how to like get it all down, right? I didn't know how to kind of focus it. It was just a lot of data. So I finally kind of got my head under a method, and I'm working with an editor right now to kind of get it squared away.
Oh, great.
And the school thing just happened, I just kind of had the time, and they let me in, which was the miracle of miracles. Cause I had a high school degree, and I was like, maybe they'll let me in. And they let me in. I was like, okay. And so I got through a master's, which I don't even know how I did that. And then I was like, well, maybe they'll let me in for a PhD. I don't know. And they let me in. I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. But
so what University of Texas there in Austin, or?
no, I'm actually at UT in York, York
Oh.
University
Oh,
in
okay.
Toronto, not UT, but York University in Toronto.
All right. So they have really high standards.
No. They'll let anybody in, I should say. No. No, I have really good professors that are very supportive.
Great. And how many hours a day do you still spend with a guitar in your hands?
Usually at least an hour. I try.
And
Sometimes a couple.
Is that just freewheeling, or do you have exercises and things still?
I have things I'm working on. So things involved with my dissertation is around sort of the work of some influential women on me and some pioneering women. So I've been doing a lot of that, and I'm working on a one-woman show that would be sort of around that woman guitar thing, but more on the pioneering, like Maybelle Carter, Memphis Minnie, Elizabeth Cotton, Sister Rosetta, Lydia Mendoza, like people like that. And then I study. So when I'm practicing, I try to study that stuff. I'm usually working at that.
And I presume there will be an album to go with the show that goes with the book.
That will be the following thing we do. Yeah.
So. It's all going to come together.
It'll all come together in about 18 months, maybe 2 years.
Great. All right. Well, listen, is there anything else going on that we should talk about? I can't imagine what.
I don't know. I mean, that's enough. I mean, my head's kind of spinning right now, but that's why when you asked about songwriting, like I'll write songs when I have a spare brain cell, you know.
Well, it doesn't sound like you need to write any for the foreseeable future. You've got all these fabulous, artists to draw upon for your various projects. So
yeah, there's some really good ones, and it's some really interesting guitar styles that I like to work on. So I really enjoy that,
Is there somebody you've discovered lately that you hadn't come across before?
There's I had done some research on her, but she's fascinating to me. A lady named Ida Presti. Have you ever heard of her?
I haven't.
Ida. She's French. Ida Presti, Presti, and she recorded. She was sort of a star in the French classical world, and in the 1930s, 40s. Like she was a child in the 30s, I think, and child prodigy, and started actually doing concerts, but she was really an amazing guitar player. So I find her story really compelling. and I'm working on a classical piece that she recorded, but she was an amazing, amazing, amazing guitar player. Like, like, yeah, you always say, oh, women weren't technicians like men were, but she was, and she has a very interesting story. So there's people like that I discovered that have really, piqued my interest.
Is there going to be a chapter on you in the book?
In my book, yes. My book is actually part, that was the problem, that I couldn't figure out how to do this book, because I was like, well, anybody can do a biography of all these artists. And since the time I started my research and interviews till now, which is 20 years, there's a Guitar Girl magazine, there's a She Shreds magazine, there's countless websites that have all the data. And I just thought, well, what can I do? I mean, my interviews are my interviews. I get it, but I was like, well, there's got to be more to this. So, I'm working with an editor, and we decided, my story, my narrative was very important in sort of unfolding the story of women and my experience and my influences. So so yes, the answer is yes.
Well, that sounds great. I really look forward to reading it, because it does sound like something different, as opposed to just, the usual, and then this person did this, and then this person did that, and then this person did this. So it'll be great to hear it through somebody else's ears,
Well, thanks. I hope it works out. I'm liking the way it's unfolding right now. And it's the first time I've actually done 3 drafts of the book, or what I thought, and I just never liked it. So this is the first time I feel like maybe this might be kind of interesting, something I would like.